This week, we are talking S&OP again. Why? Because it's a vital component of the supply chain. And we're going to be talking about the 12 key success factors to make sure your S&OP is really effective. Coming right up. So welcome again. The topic is S&OP and success factors. We're very lucky to have joining us again this week, Stephen Thacker, one of our directors. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you, Rob. Good to join you.
So you're a bit passionate about S&OP, I know that. So I'm dying to hear, what are these 12 success factors?
Very good. So this is something we've developed over a long period of time in doing this now. And these 12 key success factors are focused on getting the most out of the S&OP meetings. So the 12 that I'm about to present aren't in any necessary order of sequence or priority. They're really the 12 things that are kind of not negotiable. They're the things you have to be able to deliver well if you want your S&OP meetings to be doing what they're supposed to be doing. So the key in all of this is understanding that these meetings are different. S&OP meetings are different, and they're meant to be different than pretty much any other meeting that we ever attend, or perhaps even have ever attended in the past in our management roles in a business. And these things differentiate S&OP meetings from any other. So let me go through the 10. The first is that all S&OP meetings, no matter which one it is in the cycle, whether it's the executive review at the end of the month or the demand review towards the end of the first week of the month, they have to be decision-making meetings, not discussion meetings. So any discussion that needs to occur needs to happen prior to that particular meeting, the day before at the latest. So when we come to the meeting, if we find that our meetings drift into long-winded discussions, then we're not achieving the objective. We've basically failed to prepare properly because we're there to make decisions, and therefore our teams need to provide to us enough information to confidently be able to make a decision during that meeting. So that's number one. Number two, and a number of these other key success factors deliver this outcome of a decision-making meeting, not a discussion meeting. Number two is that each page in our decks need to satisfy what we call the 10-second rule. In other words, if I'm a senior manager and I'm looking at the deck for the first time, within 10 seconds or thereabouts, we're not wedded to exactly 10 seconds, but in a very short period of time, I need to understand what it is that you're telling me, what the issues might be, tell me about what the factors are contributing to that, and give me a recommendation. Tell me what I need to decide as an executive in the business to be able to resolve the issue or correct the course of action that we're on. So 10 seconds. So that means that the information needs to be concise and thorough at the same time, but delivering on this objective of give me the chance to make a decision. Number three builds on that and suggests that the best way to achieve that 10-second rule and therefore decision-making meetings is to set up our pages in what we call the 4-quadrant layout. The 4-quadrant looks like this. Top left-hand corner might be the data that we're wanting to present, never as a spreadsheet, always as a graph or a trend, which I can analyze and assess in the space of a few seconds. Top right will be any commentary. So I need my teams to tell me, what do I need to know about this graph or about this data to make sure that we're on the same page about what you're trying to tell me and interpreting the data that's presented. Bottom left-hand corner is the root cause analysis. So if we're not hitting target, if our forecast accuracy is down or our case fill is down, tell me what caused it and tell me whether it's a systemic problem, A, or B, a one-off. You know, if the warehouse floods and you can't get product out, that's a one-off. But if it's there for 3 months in a row, then it's systemic. I need to know what I have to do to fix this systemic problem. And then the bottom right-hand corner is the key one. That's where I want to see decisions. Tell me what I have to make a decision on and agree to or not agree to, because I've got three options. I agree to the recommendation, I don't agree on the recommendation, or we defer it. And we'll discuss it next month because we've got time to do that. We may need more information. Number 4, also helping deliver this concept of decision-making meetings, not discussion meetings, is that the day before each of our S&OP meetings is allocated as preparation day. So the deck is produced at 5 p.m. 2 days before, in other words, at close of business. And in my calendar, I have slotted and allocated an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, as long as I need the day before the meeting to A, read the deck, B, interrogate it, and C, ask any questions that I need to, so that I don't ask the questions during the meeting the next day. I've answered them all the day before, and I can come either supporting or needing to make a change to the recommendation on each of those pages. Preparation day, absolutely critical. Number 5 is making sure that when we are producing these decks, that we report only by exception. If something's on track, if it's on target, if it's hitting the milestone, we don't need to present it. We're there to present course corrections, not to pat ourselves on the back and present information for the sake of it to say this is all okay. So we just report by exception. Number 6, where this is going to sound a bit strange, but strangely in S&OP, we're not that concerned with the numbers. What we're much more concerned about is what assumptions underpin the numbers. So assumptions have to be clearly articulated throughout the deck. The outcome is the financial projection and the forecast, but the foundation stone is the assumption. So you can disagree with the number, but you really need to disagree or challenge at least the assumption that underpins it. So assumptions have to be very, very clear. Number 7, it's not okay to produce an S&OP deck, management reporting deck, without scenarios. So as a bare minimum, we suggest that there needs to be what we call the most likely scenario, which is what the business is hand on heart saying we can deliver. This is what we're going to sell. This is the month we're going to sell it. This is the supply. This is manufacturing. We can provide this product. That's the most likely. That's the one that's looking for approval from the senior executive team and ultimately the CEO. But that's not enough, not in today's world. So what has to be also provided as a bare minimum is, yeah, but tell me about the best case. Tell me about the worst case. Because if that's a very narrow band, I'm not that concerned. The risk profile of my forecast is very narrow. If it's a big band between best case and worst case, then the risk is significantly higher. And therefore, I want to know about that and what are the mitigating circumstances against the worst case. And if we have the best case, that's fine from the sales point of view, but are we going to have enough stock to be able to leverage that? So a best case might be a brand new large customer coming on board. But if your supply plan hasn't got the inventory to support that, you're going to be left with egg on your face. So scenarios need to be included in each of the decks. Number 8, at the end of every meeting, we conduct a critique. And interestingly, our recommended approach is that you critique yourself against these 12 success factors and score yourself. And then next month, come back and score yourself again, because we want to see continuous improvement. Unless you do meeting critiques, the meeting quality will ultimately degrade. And Rob, it always happens, it'll degrade from a quality best practice meeting where decisions are made down into a discussion meeting in the space of just a few months. So continually monitor that. And the second part of the critique is ask everybody in the room for one suggestion each month on how the meeting could be improved the following month. Then you won't get the frustration of people thinking in their heads what a waste of time these meetings are, but never being able to articulate why that is and make the changes. Number 9, and this is such a common one, too many S&OP meetings focus on the short term. So whoever's chairing that meeting needs to be very vigilant in making sure that discussions that talk about what's happening next week and next month, maybe they need to occur, but that's not the purpose of S&OP. So we have this thing called a cumulative lead time. You need to focus on the start of that cumulative lead time going out for a minimum of 13 and as much as 24 months. So don't get caught up in the short term. S&OP is about the medium to long term. Number 10, particularly when we're putting in recommendations to the executive team, every page where it's possible needs to be financialized. So it's fine to put up a recommendation that you increase safety stock, for example, But how can an executive approve that without knowing the financial implications? What does that do to the balance sheet? What does that do to operating costs, et cetera, et cetera? So financialise every page where it's sensible and possible. And there aren't too many exceptions for not being able to financialise a recommendation. Number 11, we have this word called materiality. So in other words, don't get caught up in the minutiae. If it's a C-class SKU and you're worried about your forecast accuracy being pretty poor, you're kind of wasting time, particularly if you're blindsided by an A-class SKU, which is causing you a problem. So focus on the Pareto rule, focus on discussions about materiality of the issue and the recommendations. And the last one is, and this is perhaps a personal peeve, if you like, don't put spreadsheets in your decks. Spreadsheets it's data, it's not management information. It doesn't satisfy the 10-second rule. It can be misinterpreted. So kill spreadsheets from your S&OP deck. Now, some of you may be thinking, yeah, but we've always had them and they're in there right now. It is possible to replace every spreadsheet. Kind of a play on words, but it's okay to have a few tables if they're necessary, but not detailed spreadsheets that just distort what we're trying to get across here. So they're the 12 key ones, Rob.
That is an amazing list there, Stephen. Well done. Let's just put that list up on the screen again in full. And let me ask you a question. How many of these 12 are you applying in your S&OP process? Do a bit of a self-audit maybe. I'd love to hear your scores down below. Score yourself out of 12. How many are you doing? Because if you're not doing all 12, your S&OP isn't as effective as it should be. So thank you for joining us again, Stephen, this week. There's lots and lots of videos on the channel about S&OP. Do have a look. And hey, if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe too. See you next week.
Cheers.